Are you looking to become a better real estate investor? Then hang on, because you're about to experience another episode of the world's most popular real estate podcast, the BiggerPockets Podcast. But before we get to this week's show, I wanted to invite you to become part of our community, BiggerPockets.com, the real estate investing social network. The membership is free, and you'll instantly gain access to networking opportunities, educational content, investor tools, and more. Sign up now and get a free copy of our book, The Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Real Estate Investing, read by hundreds of thousands of budding entrepreneurs. Just click this link right here, or just head to BiggerPockets.com. With that, let's get to the show.
This is the BiggerPockets Podcast, Show 59.
You're listening to BiggerPockets Radio, simplifying real estate for investors large and small. If you're here looking to learn about real estate investing without all the hype, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and be sure to join the millions of others who have benefited from BiggerPockets.com, your home for real estate investing online.
What's going on, everybody? This is Josh Dorkin, host of the BiggerPockets Podcast, here with my co-host, Brandon Turner.
That was nice. That was very nice.
You like that?
I do.
It's like my Michael Buffer intro for you.
I don't even know what that is. You make all these references. I don't even know what you're
Let's get ready to, that guy.
Oh, that guy. Oh, that guy. Oh, that guy. Do you like my new mic?
Yeah, I do like your new mic. I'm glad I got you one.
Yes. Thank you for my new mic. Well,
now you can sound half as good as I do.
Yeah, it's something to strive for.
Yeah. So it's been a kind of a cool week this week. We've had a bit of a milestone. I wanted to really quickly share, which is 160,000 members on the site. Yay! Yeah, that's kind of cool. Things are moving along. Lots of new folks coming to BP, learning, making moves, doing deals. It's awesome, as we like to say.
Awesome. Take a shot.
Yeah. Take a shot. So we got a cool show today. I think people are going to like this one. We've got a guy who's kind of a jack of all trades. And before we get to that, I know Brandon wanted to share a quick tip.
All right, this is my quick tip because today I learned a lesson. I don't know if it was a lesson, but whatever. Today a house came up on the market in my little town, for like $39,000, and that's a really good deal in this town particularly. And I looked at it, and it was already gone by the time I saw it. Quickly gone, I think. And I had looked at this house a year ago. It was just a vacant house in my town. I drove by it. I walked around the outside. I popped my head through the window, looked around, and I thought I should contact the owners. And then I just kind of left it at that, and I didn't do it. And now a year later, it goes on the market and sold right away. So my quick tip is, if you're thinking about doing something, don't just think about it, do it. If I would have done it a year ago, do it. I probably would have had it. So yeah, motivation, go do it and stop thinking about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's a good tip.
Thank you.
Cool. All right. Well, we're going to get a lot of great tips in the show, featuring Paul Tschetter. And Paul is an investor up in the Washington area, and he's done. Yeah, he's in the rural side of the country.
This is our first guest from my neck of the woods.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't think we've had a.
Well, why don't you introduce him then?
All right, I will. All right, Paul Tschetter is an investor from the Whidbey Island area, and he is a jack of all trades. Like Josh said, he does a lot of different kinds of investing. So we're going to cover a ton of stuff today. So good show. And with that, before I bring him in, a quick reminder, everyone, go to the show notes page at BiggerPockets.com/show59. You can ask Paul questions about his adventures in real estate. So with that, let us bring him in.
All right, Paul. Welcome to the show, man. Good to have you.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Paul, would you want to, why don't we start by, what is your last name? How do I say your last name? Because I couldn't figure it out earlier.
It's cheddar, like the cheese, but it's obviously spelled kind of funny or messed up.
All right, yeah, I had some trouble with that. So
why are you picking on the guy for his name, man? That's a little childish, I think.
That's
I'm used to it.
That's how I roll. I don't want people, looking at the title of the podcast and being like, Paul, so the number 7, the letter Q. Wait. Anyway.
Come up with an original way to pronounce it. I'll see if I've heard it before.
Nice. There you go. There you go.
I'll work on it. Well, cool.
Cool. All right, man. Well, so Paul, tell us how you got started. You've done a ton of stuff in real estate. So how did it all kick off?
Well, it's a long story, but the quick version is I've wanted to be a real estate investor pretty much since I graduated from college, which was the last century, I guess. So out of college, I figured I should probably get some education on real estate investing, and so one of my first jobs was I went and worked for a apartment broker who sold, who specialized in selling apartment buildings in the Bay Area. And just kind of worked as his grunt / right-hand man, getting to know the market and helping him with listings and marketing and all that stuff. And worked for him for about a year and really learned a ton.
Nice. How did you find that guy originally? Do you remember?
To be honest, I believe it was on Craigslist way back in the day. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Now, did you start doing that with the intent that someday you would become a real estate investor, or was it, hey, I want to get in the business, let me kind of dance around and try different things?
Good question. I didn't really know. I mean, I knew that I'd talked to some brokers and kind of knew that that's one way that people got started is just kind of becoming an expert in a niche and making some good money doing that, and then ultimately kind of converting over to become an owner. So I was open to maybe the path was being a broker, but it was just mainly just to start my kind of in my education. I thought, why not get paid a little to learn, kind of get the street, learn how somebody's actually doing this, and rather than going to school. I'm more of a kind of hands-on guy. So nice.
Okay, so you're working there. Did you get your license, or were you just assisting in other things?
I was just assisting. I kind of started that process, but pretty quick realized that wasn't the right path for me.
Okay.
But that led. There's more to the story, but it led to through one of his clients, who was a buyer, or an owner who bought apartment buildings. I actually moved back down to Los Angeles and got a job for this small apartment rehabber. He basically bought small, under 100 units, 50 to 100 unit apartment buildings, and they were just getting going down in Los Angeles area. And same thing, he kind of needed a right-hand man, grunt, to do project management and help them with rehabs and kind of overseeing vendors and helping a little bit out with acquisitions. And so that job with the broker kind of transitioned nicely to a job working for an actual owner and kind of seeing that side of the business.
That job right there, what you did, there's no title necessarily for it, right? Like you said, grunt, project manager. Right. There's 50 different job positions, but that is the guy that every successful real estate investor I know is always looking for, right? That is a position, even though it doesn't have a title. I mean, I wish I had that guy, and I don't know. So I think all those people that are listening to the show out there who want to get into real estate and don't know how to get started, be that guy, and you'll never have a problem.
Right. Absolutely.
So anyway,
yeah, the pay wasn't amazing, but it was like, getting an MBA in a year. I mean, it was fantastic education.
That's awesome. So you stayed with him for a year, or were you there for a longer time?
I was both jobs about a year. And the next part of the story, just to keep it brief, was I got married, and I was kind of trying to figure out,
Congratulations.
Thank you. But I ended up starting a seemingly kind of random, but it did have a purpose, and it was kind of targeted towards real estate. Was I actually thought, well, I need to kind of build some capital myself, and I'm an entrepreneur. Why don't I start a service business that kind of targets some aspect of real estate? The apartment industry or the commercial real estate industry. Let me build a little company, stay connected to the real estate, continue to learn, continue my education, but also build start a little company and build some capital so I can start buying. I definitely wanted to still buy my own apartment buildings or commercial buildings or whatever. So I started a little payment processing business back in 2002, and we targeted apartment management companies, helping them collect rent and application fees and everything related to collecting rent, online with credit cards, ACHs. And so we started this, myself and another gentleman started a little service business to with that kind of in mind.
Oh, that's nice.
Interesting.
And so obviously you built it up to the point where you had the capital to kind of jump in and kick things off.
Yeah, 10 years later, I've been doing that since 2002, and it just, in the last few years have finally, after, many kind of starts and stops of trying to just pull the trigger on my first deal, it's really not been the last few years that I finally jumped in. So I still have the credit card business, but I'm pretty much full time now doing real estate investing.
Oh, cool. So how did your first deal? You said it took 10 years. How did that first deal come up?
Well, I finally, the real estate market had really obviously dropped off in 2007, 8, and I moved back up to Washington, which is where I grew up, around 2009. And so when I got up here, I thought it's time. I was tired of making excuses, and I just finally made the plunge. So we moved into just north of Seattle to a really neat place called Whidbey Island, which is.
Isn't that where what was War Games? Wasn't War Games filmed on Whidbey Island with Matthew Broderick? Was that what it was called?
That I have heard that. I have not been able to verify that, but I have actually heard that.
I feel like that's what it was called.
I think you're right. So yeah, we just started. Finally bought made my first transaction here a few years ago, and I guess I could tell you a little bit about that.
Yeah. It's called Goose Island, by the way, as I look it up on Google here. So I was incorrect. Apologies.
Wow, I don't even know what you're talking about. Oh, War Games?
Have you never seen War Games?
No, I don't even know what that is.
Oldie.
What are you, like 12?
Matthew Broderick's only movie I've seen is like Godzilla and Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Paul, have you seen War Games?
Oh yeah, that's an oldie.
That's a classic, man.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
Come
on, Brandon, get with it.
All right, I'll check it out. All right, so first deal, what was it like, or what did you do?
So Whidbey Island's a very rural type part of the country.
Emphasis on rural.
On rural. So we just have a lot of it's kind of there's a lot of second homes and a lot of real high. It's kind of not a resort area, but people from Seattle own homes up here, so it's kind of a retreat, second home type market. So the kind of more entry level traditional long-term rentals are just real basic 3-bedroom 2-bath type houses. So one of my ideas to jump in was to actually buy manufactured homes, and I own a few of those now. And so I found what I actually did on my first deal is I found a lot that had previously had a home on it that had been demolished because it was actually a meth house.
Oh, nice.
And so I was able to pick up a lot from the bank for a mere $6,000.
Wow.
And that was my first transaction, and I had also started putting out some feelers to find a nice late model manufactured home to actually move onto the lot and improve it, and either rent it out or sell it. So that was the first transaction that I did up here.
Hey Paul. So was that buying the property? Was the house already raised at that point, or was it still standing? No,
I literally bought it. Like a week after they had gone through the full form. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the process, but it's pretty extensive and expensive. And the health department had just signed off on, the lot was basically good as new. The bank had dealt with all the abatement, yep, to the tune of $50,000
nice.
To knock the house down. So no, I didn't have to deal with any of that.
Wow. So clean and clear, $6,000. You got this beautiful lot. You go find a manufactured home to put on it. And you had not dealt with any of these types of properties before, had you? The mobile?
No. I mean, it was pretty new. I hadn't done that. I just had kind of had the idea and had seen that they'd make, for this area, they're decent rentals, and the ratios kind of work up here. So, I had kind of heard of people that would move up here, buy 5 acres, and put a mobile home on it, and then down the road they'd finally build their dream house, and they'd need to deal with the mobile home. And so that's kind of the type of thing I was looking for, was somebody that, you know, had a 5-10-year-old mobile home, and I could pick it up for cheap and move it to one of my properties as a rental. And that's not exactly what happened, but I ended up finding a nice mobile about a year and a half later. And we just finished that, you know, completed that deal about 3-4 months ago.
Well, let's talk numbers on that if we could. You said you bought the lot for $6,000. What did the home cost to buy and move it?
So the home was free, $99.
Nice.
Didn't have to actually pay for it. The guy, you know, would have cost him $5,000-$6,000 to get rid of it. And it was it was a 1980s 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Needed some freshening up, but it wasn't it was worth my time and effort. So we picked that up. I actually had secured a private loan from a local investor to do the project on top of that. So I ended up spending about $50,000 total to, you know, move it, place it, fix it up, put in a new septic system. So it was pretty involved, but now we've got a rental. We're into it for about $55,000, and it rents for $1,100.
Okay, so it's pretty much the 2% rule, and you got that on on Whidbey Island, which is an expensive area generally.
Right.
So that's cool.
It's hard to find. Yeah, it's hard to find even just a real basic 3-bedroom home here for under $200. I mean, that's kind of the
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So let me ask you. I mean, so this was your first deal, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so you've got this lot. You've paid $6,000, and it took a good year and a half before anything could happen. Did you do anything with the property in the meantime, or was it? I mean, $6,000. It wasn't super expensive, right. So it wasn't really draining a hole in your pocket. But anything in the meanwhile?
No, I mean, I knew it would probably take some time if I wanted to, get what I was looking for. I mean, I could have gone out and bought what I needed for 30 or 40 grand probably, but I knew that I needed to be patient. So I just pretty much sat there, mowed it a couple times, and just waited. In the meantime, I was doing other transactions. I wasn't waiting, for that. But
okay,
gotcha. And here's my question. So I hear mobile home as somebody who's never dealt with them. I think, oh, it's one of these things on wheels. You can move them around, do whatever you want. Why the heck does it cost $50,000 to do? Obviously you talk about the septic system, but there's more than one class of mobile homes, correct? I mean, there's movable and non-movable.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's a huge range. This is a double wide. It's not on wheels. They do, to move them, they actually split it in 2 pieces and put axles underneath it. It's on a metal frame, but from the outside it really looks like just a very basic traditional stick built home. We put them on kind of a concrete slab and put concrete around the base as opposed to just the thrown up wood or plastic. So it actually it looks like a real house from the outside. But yeah, there's triple wides, there's double wides, and there's single wides, and the double wides are really what I'm interested in, just because they're for the money and for the they feel similar to a stick built home. Now
take the case of the property you've got. So you've got this $5,500 into it. You're making pretty good rental. Have you considered the other side of just owning a home at a park? Is there anything really different about that than what you're doing here?
Well, I had looked into that too, and that's I know a lot of guys do that. The nice thing about this is if you do one of these and it's it's after, I believe it's 1978 or 1976, I can't remember the cutoff, but the owner occupied buyers can actually get financing for this type of when you take the mobile, move it onto a piece of property and attach it to the property, you can get conventional financing. So I like that just because it gives me I'm holding it as a rental right now, but down the road I have an exit strategy, and this type of home, I can sell it easily for 100 to 125 in this market.
Nice. Now, a typical mobile home, it sounds like you can't get conventional. It's similar to like a car financing, isn't it?
I'm again, when you're in a park, there's different financing from what I understand. And then again, I'm not an expert in that arena, but all I know is when you do attach it to, you remove the title, because the mobile from the factory has a title. And when you remove that and actually affix it to a piece of property that's owned, it becomes like real property.
Cool.
Right on.
Hey, can you share any mistakes you may have made or things you regret if you were to go back and do it again, you'd do differently on that first deal?
That's a good question. I probably spent a little too much money on the rehab. I mean, it needed some updating, and I probably went a little further than I needed to. It went pretty smooth, and the reason is I actually in the midst of buying that property and actually getting this mobile home for that property, I had actually purchased another property and moved one of these already. So it was my first piece of property I bought, but it was the second mobile home that I'd moved. So it actually went pretty smoothly. I had used the mover before. I had used a lot of the same vendors, the concrete guy and the remodelers and contractors and all that. So
okay, so you didn't do the labor yourself inside to fix it up?
I don't do any of the work myself. I've got some fantastic local handymen and contractors and laborers, and I've got a really good team.
Cool. So. And that's the question we ask a lot of people, but do you have any tips on finding good contractors?
I like, since I'm just kind of a small guy, I like just through networking and Craigslist. I mean, I like working with just the small one-man kind of handyman type guys that may or may not be licensed. I've just been really lucky, but it's really been through networking and talking to local property management companies, and that I've kind of found the guys that I like to work with.
Okay. And here's a kind of a specific question, and I've never asked this on the show before, but I'm curious. What do you pay? Like, let's say you've got some sheetrock that got damaged from whatever, a water leak that happened years ago. What do you pay a typical contractor to go fix that up? I mean, per hour, are you 15, 50, 100 an hour? Like, where are you at up there?
It kind of ranges from 15 to 30. I mean, that's a huge range, but I've got more labor guys, and then I've got more skilled carpenters. So, it's really been that range.
Okay.
15 to 30 is what I pay.
Yeah, I think I want to start asking that question more often, because
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm always curious. Like I pay generally like 20 to 25 in my area is about kind of the going rate for somebody who's decent and licensed and bonded, probably can do this stuff. But yeah, okay, cool. Well, okay, let's go back to your story. You did that first deal. After that, and that first deal kind of spanned several deals. Right. So let's talk about your second and third. Kind of, where did you go next after you bought that land?
Well, I mean, really about the same time, I had two other properties in contract. So I kind of came out of the gate swinging. I had, so there were just a lot of deals at the time, and I had, kind of the resource and the financing to do a couple deals. And so, roughly the same time as closing on that lot, I bought just a kind of a conventional 3-bedroom, 2-bath, stick-built house in a similar area. And then I, like a month later, also closed on an older 3-bedroom, 2-bath kind of farmhouse that is also kind of a traditional rental.
Okay. And do you mind me asking how much you paid for those?
Yeah. So the second transaction was 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2,000 square foot, and I paid $130 for that.
Okay.
And that one we fixed it up. Needed, I think it put about 12 or 13,000 into it, and that one rented out for $1,300.
Okay.
And so it's not a home run, not a screaming deal, but I was able to, about 6 months after we did that, refinance it and pull most of the money that we had put down. We had a conventional loan on that and pulled most of the money out, and it still cash flows of, a couple $100 a month.
Hey, let's actually talk on that a little bit, because I like that strategy. You said, I mean, for those people who are listening who don't know what that all means, can you kind of go through that a little more, detailed on refinancing it out?
Yeah. So this one actually I bought with a partner, and we had to put 20% down. We had a traditional loan with a conventional bank and, US bank. And so we had to put, roughly, I don't know the exact math, but, roughly, $30,000 down, $35,000 down. And then we put about, like I said, $12,000-$13,000 of our own money into it to fix it up. And so we got it rented, and we kind of let it do its thing for 6 or 8 months. And then we went back to the bank, got it reappraised. And I knew going into it that we'd potentially be able to do this, because when we bought it for $130, it actually appraised for $185.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
So we kind of had that data going into it. So we got it refinanced, or we got it reappraised, and it reappraised at $200 after we fixed it up and had it rented out in the market. I think it started to improve a little bit. And so, if it appraises for $200, you can do a 70 to 80% loan to value on the property. And so, in this case, we were able to put a $150,000 mortgage, new loan, to pay off the original loan on that property. And at that point, we paid off the loan, and there was extra left over. So we, basically paid ourselves, took our money back out. And so now we've got, basically no money into this deal. And, it's not an incredible return, but, the market's improving, and we're cash flowing a little bit, and we have none of our own money in the deal now. So
yeah, so pretty much infinite returns at this point. You're just doing pure profit. That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm working on kind of the same thing right now. That I wrote a post a while back about the ugly purple triplex that I bought, and it was we paid $70 for it. It appraised $90 when we bought it, and the appraiser had told me, this is worth a lot more than what I can appraise it for, but there's just no comps right now. So that's what I'm hoping to do. Exactly the same thing. I'm hoping I can get it to appraise for 120, 130, and go out and get a 70% refinance and pull all of my cash and everything back out along with my partner. So pretty much the exact same story. It's one of my favorite strategies there is for investing with no money.
Right.
Or at least getting your money back. So
right.
Cool. So you mentioned partner. You worked with a partner on this. Can we talk on that a little bit?
Yeah, I definitely am a fan of partners. I've done deals on my own. I've used different partners. One of my first partners, like I've heard on from a lot of people, is a relative or friend or relative. And so we just we had an arrangement where we were both brought some money to the table. I was doing most of the work, and it's worked out great. We've bought like I said, I bought different properties with different people. So it's
well. Can we cover the way that you do that? Because say you've got a partner, you guys both bring money to the picture, and you're doing all the work. The way I see it, he's not bringing everything, so you're definitely not going 50-50. Are you doing like 60-40 splits, or how are you working that out?
Well, I don't have one standard way of doing it, but with this first partner, it's a 50-50 partnership. I put a little money in just because I really didn't have a track record at that point. Even though it was a family member, he felt like I needed to put a little bit of money into the deal. So, but since then, as I've developed a track record, it's your deal structures can definitely change. You have more leverage. The recent partnerships I put little to no money in, and my partners usually put most of the money up, and I do the work and kind of have developed a track record to manage the asset. So
yeah, and you say track record, and I think it's something that we hear over and over and over again on the podcast, and I like to emphasize, because I think it's super important for the newer investors who say, well, I don't have a lot of money, I don't know what I can do here, how do I proceed? And ultimately, maybe you turn to a family member. I mean, we've covered a million ways to start out in finance, but as you proceed forward, you build a track record for yourself by being successful and demonstrating that you can do these deals. You're going to build trust in those people who are going to potentially lend you money or work with you, partner with you. And over time, essentially, it just becomes easier and easier to do deals with less of your own capital.
Absolutely. This is so funny. I literally last week, I was at one of my jobs, and one of my contractors actually, he heard me on the phone talking to one of my investor partners, and this contractor he kind of pulled me aside and said, "Hey, what's the minimum to get into this thing? How do I mean, so it's amazing when you start, doing stuff. I mean, people start finding you, and again, this is a guy that works for me all the time, and he was interested in parking some money in real estate. So we had a conversation about that. So
and how did that particular person find you? Was it, you just tell everybody, which is something that I think people should do, or was it just kind of word of mouth?
You mean the initial partner, or
no, the one you had? Just
it was. I mean, literally, it's a guy that works for him. I mean, a contractor that has some extra money, and just he knows what I'm doing, and kind of hears me talking to my partners, and he.
That's cool.
Just asks, how do I jump into this? So.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But it's all net. Yeah, it's there's no website. It's all networking. In my experiences, it's just networking and just doing what you do, and at first you kind of are seeking people out, but after a little bit, that more people start asking you what you're doing, and everybody, you develop a niche and a skill set that not everybody has. So.
Yeah. So have you taken any? Have you done hard money loans, or are there types of private money other than partnerships? So
I've done seller financing. I did the first manufactured home deal I told you about. That was just a pure. It was actually what some people call a soft money loan, where one challenge I have with the mobile homes is I can't as an investor currently get conventional financing. That's one of the limitations to that strategy, at least currently. And so that was a gentleman who lent me his own private money, but gave me a reasonable return. It's like I've got a 10-year loan at, I believe it's 5%. So I've done that. And then I just did my first, I've got a project I'm working on now where I did my first hard money loan.
Okay. Gotcha. Can we talk about that a little bit? How did that go for you?
Well, we'll see.
All right, so maybe I can ask more specifically. What kind of rates and terms did you get for that?
Well, and before we even go there, sure. Why'd you decide to do that versus take on another partner?
Yeah, so this one, I've wanted to just try it out as I'm still pretty new at this. I'm definitely I've gotten some reps in the last few years, but I just have wanted to, for the right deal, wanted to try doing a hard money loan because it's, obviously there's a bunch of benefits and there's a bunch of downsides to it, but it was a deal where I just made a really good buy. It's a property that it's probably, I bought it for 60% of what it's probably worth, as is, and then there's even more upside once it's fixed up. And so there was enough of a margin there where I felt comfortable to use hard money. So I'm in the midst of the project. We're probably 2 weeks from finishing it. And then at that point, I'm going to try to actually refinance it and put a conventional loan on it. And if for some reason the ratios don't work or doesn't appraise for enough, I've got some sellers, it's a property that can very easily sell. So I've kind of got that as a backup.
Nice. Okay, cool. And that's really important. I don't know, we don't need to necessarily dive into it real deeply, but the fact that you have multiple exit strategies for this potential flip or potential rental, it's perfect. It's cool.
I like having at least 2, if not 3 exits. Yeah, I'm pretty conservative, but I really try to have. I'm trying to build a portfolio of rentals, but it's nice to know that and if you need to sell it, you can sell it, not be underwater.
Yep.
So.
Okay, Paul. So here's the deal. So you've got this property. Your plan with this thing is to refi it and get conventional financing. What would be the alternative? So, you said you had ulterior exit plans. What were the ones that you had in mind here?
So the second exit would be to sell the house, just to sell it. I've even got people that have contacted me just knowing the house in the area that want to buy it already. They see that somebody's remodeling it and it's in a very desirable area. And so the backup exit is just to sell it and sell it for a profit.
Nice.
Okay, cool.
Okay, sounds good. Hey, one more question on this particular one. You mentioned that this was a 60% deal. That's kind of tough to come by a property where it's 60%. How did you come across this one?
So it's kind of a glitch in the matrix, so to speak. It's just a totally random thing. It's a property that I had my eye on. The seller had tried to sell it maybe a year and a half ago, and it was just in my database, and I've been watching it. And it was kind of a weird thing. It was one of these. It was a reverse mortgage foreclosure. And I'm not really, to be honest, that familiar with how that all works. But basically, the person passed away, and the bank just kind of, sells it for kind of what's left on the mortgage or what they're owed. To be honest, I don't really understand how all that works. But it just came on the market. It wasn't an inside deal or anything. It was it came out on the MLS, and we wrote an offer the first day. And they actually had multiple offers, and people even had a written, higher priced offers. But just because of my track record and the guy that I use, the broker that I use, we were able to convince the seller to go with our offer because it was stronger.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, you mentioned your database. You've got this database of properties that you watch. What kind of criteria are you using for these properties? Is it absentee landlords? Is it foreclosures? And then I'm just curious to kind of talk a little bit about how do you manage it? Because this property came on the MLS. Did you have it tagged if this thing comes back on to let us know, or how do you manage all that?
So you have to understand, I live in a very small town. So it sounds funny, but literally when something comes on the market, I use one thing that I use is Redfin, and they have a pretty good alert thing. So I've got my criteria in there, and you can set up a user, and they've got settings. And pretty much any property that comes on the market in Island County, which is our county, I know about the day that within hours of it coming on the market.
Gotcha.
So that's really for this immediate market. That's kind of all it takes. I do have a CRM system where I do kind of manage data on some of the properties that I'm managing. But really, for my local market here, it's just kind of an alert type of thing where, I get an email when a property, if it's my criteria, hits the MLS. And
Gotcha.
Then when I've got if there's foreclosures or other deals that come across my plate that aren't on the MLS, I've got this CRM system that I kind of manage those leads.
Nice. So John Cougar Mellencamp was singing about you too, huh?
What? I don't get these references.
I did actually. I'll be honest. I missed that one.
Small town. Yeah. Growing up in a small town.
Got it.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Yeah,
know.
we're in a small town.
You have to be born in maybe the early 80s or late 70s to get that, or any time before, Brandon.
Apparently. Josh,
Yeah.
can we get back to real estate?
Listen, my job here is to distract.
Yeah. And yeah.
No.
All right, I do want to point out something interesting. A lot of people who live in big cities or big areas, unlike the rural areas that Paul and I live in, they might say, well, that's easy when you live in a small area to know all the properties that come up on the market.
Yeah, must be nice.
Yeah, I know
Nice guys.
I know all the properties in my town when they come up because there's only a few, right? But
Brandon, your town is like a block. You could throw a rock and hit the other side of town. So it's like, it's not a big deal. When
it
you
is
live
a big deal. No, so here's my point though. Is everybody, when you're starting out especially, just define an area of the same size, right? Like if my area is a mile by a mile, so not a block, but it's like a mile by a mile, go pick your farm area and make it a mile by a mile. And you've got the same number of properties, and just ignore everything else. Pretend everything else doesn't exist. That's your area. That's where you set up your alerts. That's where you set up everything. You become the king of that area, and branch out once you get some experience. But
that's a great tip, Brandon.
Thank you.
That is, Brandon. That actually really speaks to me, because I think that's why it took me 10 years to get to starting. It is so overwhelming when you live in wherever, Seattle or Denver. Yep. I mean, there's so many strategies and so many types of properties and so many ways to buy them. And, I was just overwhelmed. And so when I moved to I think that might have been part of the thing that helped me get over the edges. It is a lot smaller area and a lot slimmer pickings. So.
Yep. Hey, so while we're talking about farming here, and for those people who are unfamiliar with the term, I'm not making fun of you rural guys there. Okay. No, I mean, rural. So yeah, rural. Farming is basically kind of the process of working an area. So what would somebody do to kind of set up a farm in an area that is a bigger city? How would you kind of determine your criteria for what's the best 1 mile by 1 mile plot that you should pick and that you should work on? Do you have any ideas, any tips on that?
Well, I don't know that. I guess what I'd say is, just pick a couple zip codes. Maybe even start with one zip code or a couple zip codes, and just really try to be disciplined at becoming an expert in that area. I mean, I think that's even. I hear realtors that when they start doing their business, that's kind of how they start, is they pick an area. So as an investor, you just have to be very disciplined, because you get outside that area and there's just too many deals, and it's kind of overwhelming. So I guess that's what I'd recommend.
And right. I could add to that, like, I mean, off the top of my head, I think different areas are obviously good for different strategies. Like, my area is not great for flipping. I mean, I've done it, but it's not real great for it. Other areas are amazing for flipping, but they're not good for rentals because you can't get the cash flow. So I think you got to pick an area that fits whatever strategy you want to do. And I think a real estate agent, like a good agent who understands the investor mindset, can help with that quite a bit. Just asking them, I'm looking for 1% or 1.5% or 2% deals. Where can I get those in this area?
And of course, you want to talk to a real estate agent who actually knows what a 1% deal is.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, because those might be hard to find too, by the way.
Yep. And that's true. And if you can't find one, jump on BiggerPockets forums. There's people probably from every, zip code in America on there. So, find somebody who's in your area you can get advice from. I mean, like, if somebody asked me where's a good place to invest in Western Washington, I could probably tell them within a 500-mile range of where I'm at right now what's generally good and what's generally bad, or at least good for flipping versus landlording or whatever. So just find somebody nearby and talk to them. So quick tip. Cool. All right, well, let's go back to your story. We kind of went off on a little tangent there, but I think it's important. Vacation rentals. We talked about that on a podcast a couple weeks ago with Matt Landau. And I hear you have, is it a vacation rental or some vacation rentals?
I have a vacation rental that I purchased in the midst of all this other stuff with a couple partners. And it's not something that I wanted to intend, it's not something I wanted to dive into per se. It was just it's a property that I've been watching for quite some time, and it was an incredible buy and an opportunity. And we kind of, I don't want to say stumbled into it, but I ended up being able to buy this property, and it's a waterfront property on Whidbey Island, and it's just an amazing location. So it was quite a process to get that thing going.
It's interesting that it just kind of fell in your lap. The other day Brandon was calling me, and he's like, I don't know how it happened, but somehow I just accidentally ended up with another property. It just kind of fell in my lap.
Well, when you're busy, you're networking and you're in the world. It happens, right?
It does. It's just funny to hear. So you've got this vacation rental on Whidbey Island that met some of your criteria, and you said you've got a couple of partners, yeah?
Yeah. So Man, it's a long story, and this one did not fall in my lap. It took 3 years to buy this property, so I guess falling in my lap isn't probably the right way to...
That would be more a case of patience, extreme patience. Yeah.
Some perseverance and patience, yes. But it's such a long story, but the quick version is I bought this one with actually my dad and another gentleman who I met through a mutual hobby, which is kiteboarding. We have a community of people up here on Whidbey Island that kiteboard, which is kind of like windsurfing. And this guy is a kiteboarder from Seattle, and we were having some trouble. Obviously, it took us 3 years getting this deal done, and so I kind of ran it by him. And again, it's a long story, but he brought some real expertise to helping us actually close on the transaction and fix it up, and was a huge part of helping us get the financing for it.
Nice. All right, so can you run the numbers?
So this one, it's such a unique property. We ended up buying this property. It's 200 feet of waterfront right on Useless Bay on Whidbey Island, which is kind of the prime.
It's actually called Useless Bay.
It's called Useless Bay. It's
nice.
Not a joke. Yeah, it's pretty cool, and it's useless because it's extremely shallow.
Okay.
So you couldn't get a ship in there back in the day.
Gotcha.
But we ended up buying this property it foreclosed. The guy had a loan for like $650, and it finally foreclosed, and we bought it for $305, and we put 115 to 20 into it. So we just got the property reappraised, and it came back at $800,000.
Wow!
So it was so too bad I can't find more of those deals.
Yeah. Oh yeah. For sure. So what does that rent out for? You got this for you're in it for now. What? I've lost you since we've had six takes on trying to get this right here.
So it's a lot different than a traditional rental because it's rented by the week or the month. But we currently rent it out. We just finished our first year. It came online March of 2013. So we're just finishing our first year, and we rent it out for in the high season about $300 a night, and in the off season about $200 to $225 a night. So I think in the first year we did roughly. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it did way better than we expected. We were kind of thinking it'd be half full last summer, and it was literally booked all summer. It's just an amazing. It turned out great.
Nice. Are you guys managing yourself then, or do you have somebody taking care of it? And that's actually applies to all your properties. How are you doing everything?
Yeah. So I don't manage all my conventional stuff or traditional 12-month rentals. I do not manage. I use a local management company. I strongly dislike dealing with that part of the business, so I just build it into my budget and rely on a professional. And we have a great working relationship. For the vacation rental, just because it's so different and new, and I hadn't done it before, and I live 5 minutes from the house, we are currently managing it ourselves, and we've had a huge success utilizing VRBO, not to plug VRBO, but they have a great system for marketing and for even managing the rental, the calendar, and all that. So it's been pretty painless.
Nice. Hey, really quick. So you said you're fairly booked throughout the high season. What kind of vacancy rates are you seeing otherwise?
Well, it's still pretty early to kind of see huge patterns, but we've done again better than projected this winter. Even we definitely have weekends that aren't booked, but most weekends even in the off season are booked. So we've literally the summer it's booked every day of the summer, and then in the November through March we try to get every weekend, but it's occasionally we'll have a weekend where it's not booked.
And how do you get somebody in there to clean it after each person? Do you do that as well, or do you hire that?
I've got a team of 3 or 4 cleaning people that kind of 1 or 2 that are the consistent, and when they can't do it, being living here locally, it's pretty easy to find those pretty reliable people to do that.
Cool. That's very cool. All right, well, why don't we move on, start wrapping this up, but a couple more questions I have for you before we go. I wanted to make sure I covered is, do you have any tips for people getting started? Because you went 10 years, you said, before you kind of did it. So what tips do you have for people listening that are struggling to get started?
Everyone just has such a different road and path in their career and personal life. It's hard to say one thing, but I guess the only thing I can say is just you got to just at some point pull the trigger. I mean, I think we've heard this a million times on the BiggerPockets podcast that you can research, you can read books, you can do that for the rest of your life, but there's a point in time where you just have to do it. You got to do your first deal. If you succeed or fail, it kind of doesn't matter. You just got to start somewhere. So I think that's probably the best thing I could say.
Cool. That's great. All right. So before we run to the fire round, I do want to cover something that we have in our notes about you. Is you've also done commercial deals, right?
Yeah, my island's very small, so at some point, I had to start looking beyond the island. It's super convenient for the the traditional rentals, but I started wanting to branch out. So I've in the last year bought a couple of small warehouse properties that we've been able to sign, longer term triple net type leases where, there's not as much management or little to no management required. And so the fact that it's off the island is not as big of a deal since it doesn't, once it's acquired and leased, it's easier to manage.
So what got you to transition from? Well, you said you're running out of property because you called it your island. Presumably, you own everything on the island.
Yes,
what it sounds like.
Property,
right. Okay. So you own all the residential property. You decided, hey, I'm going to go spread my wings a little bit, and decided on warehouses.
Yeah, it's kind of random. I mean, again, it's kind of a long story, but there were a couple opportunities that fell into my lap, came across my desk. And again, just seeing the opportunity to get some tenants on long-term leases, just there's nothing fancy. They're just small warehouse type properties. I just thought I'd try it, and it's still very new, and I mean less than a year. Yeah. So I'm don't claim to be the expert in commercial property, but we're just kind of spreading the wings a little bit and trying some other stuff.
So, and just really, really quick, because I'm fascinated. I think most people who start in residential kind of transition to apartment buildings. Right. The transition to a warehouse. Did you have to do a lot of research, or is it fairly similar to a residential lease, or fill us in a little bit on that whole process of transitioning?
Well, I think in my kind of 10 years of preparation, I ultimately wanted to own apartment buildings, and I think that's still in my radar. The challenges in my market up here in Washington, it's extremely competitive, even to find small apartment buildings right now. So I had years ago looked into more commercial type properties, and just as I was studying everything I could and looking at triple net leases and talking to brokers that did that. Even back when I was working for the apartment broker, there were guys in the office that did more commercial property. So, I knew a little bit about it. But it was just kind of the opportunity presented itself, and it was, I was kind of looking for it. I was looking beyond my immediate market and just was able to find some really good buys, and they were, relatively easy to rent. So again, it's not something that I'm, trying to build a huge portfolio of warehouses. It's just something I wanted to dabble in and see how it went. I'm still, a relatively new investor and just trying a few different things out.
Okay, right on. Cool. Hey, Paul, were you the one who contacted me a few months ago about a property out here in my neck of the woods?
That was me.
Okay. Did you end up buying that?
So it's another long story, but I've got it tied up. I've not bought it. It's in contract, but there was a issue with the previous owner and an eviction process, and so it's in contract, but it's in kind of a holding pattern. Okay,
and I bring that up not just to because I thought that was you, but what I thought was cool about that was like you didn't necessarily know my area very well, but you found a property that was good, so you went on BiggerPockets, found somebody in that area, reached out to me, and I'm not interested in that property. I don't even know anything about warehouses or whatever.
Right.
So like I just think I want to recommend that people do that more often. Like if you don't know an area, just find somebody who's active on BiggerPockets who does know the area and go ask them for their opinion. I don't know if I helped you at all, but you know.
No, absolutely. No, it definitely, I mean, there's so many different angles and aspects when you're doing your due diligence, and just, it is a little thing, but it's a huge deal just to, I just had a couple questions about the area and in a couple emails and a quick phone call, you were able to kind of put my mind at ease about a couple things. So yeah, no, it's huge. I mean, the networking is awesome. Cool. Good deal. All right. Well, why don't we move on to...
It's time for the fire round.
Wow, he just cut you off.
Yeah, he's been doing that lately. All right, the fire round. These questions all come from the BiggerPockets forums, and we are going to fire them at you, and you can fire them back if you'd like. Number 1, what is the worst financial advice you've ever received?
To put money in the bank and get a 2% return, and that's safe, a safe investment.
Good. That's terrible advice. So, I mean, that's a good worst advice story. All right.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, what he's trying to say is thank you for the very good advice that you shared.
You are welcome.
Yes, thank you. Josh. Yes.
All right. So what do you say the best way to find comps for properties are?
There's obviously tons of real estate websites, and you can kind of do it yourself. I try to rely on, the experts in the market. So, whatever the market is, finding the real estate agents I typically will utilize, as well as, I kind of poke around on the websites too, but I like to rely on people that know more than I do. So a lot of times I'll use agents.
Okay, cool.
Okay, Paul. So you partner with I think you said your dad and some other family folks. The question I've got is, should I partner with my adult children when investing in real estate? Do you think it's a good idea, bad idea?
I think it can be both. I mean, the key, I believe, is just like in any business decision, you got to treat it as a business also, and you got to get stuff in writing, and you've got to have boundaries. So, as painful as it might be on the front end to work that stuff out, you've got to write stuff down and what's expected of everyone involved, and it's just a key, because stuff, when stuff's going well, it doesn't matter, but stuff doesn't always go well, and whether it's family or just a business partner, you got to have everything in writing and your partnership agreements formalized. And so I would just strongly recommend that. It can be a great thing, but you just got to be very disciplined.
That's great advice, Paul.
Yeah, good advice. All right, final question of the fire round. My property manager is terrible at communicating with me. How do I get them to communicate better?
I've got two answers. One is if it's too much of a headache, I'd just find another property manager. Would be the first.
Good advice. I agree.
In my market, that's a little hard to do because there's only a couple options. But in a big city, you find a better one. But the thing that I've got a great manager, and when we've got a lot more going on, what I've discipline that I've implemented is just having a weekly meeting. So you just have a standing, Monday at 10 o'clock. You just, whether it's a 5-minute phone call or an hour phone call, you get it on the calendar and you kind of force the communication to happen at least once a week.
That's a cool idea.
Great.
I haven't heard that, so that's great.
Yeah, it's a good thing Brandon's not your property manager. He doesn't like attending meetings.
I hate meetings.
Meetings suck.
Meetings. Yeah,
they do, but
whatever.
No, I think it's great advice. I think that's a good way to kind of train them, and hopefully they're willing to work with you along those lines and do that. Obviously, you have the right to say, if you don't, I'm out of here.
Right.
Yep.
So
cool.
Absolutely. Good stuff.
All right. Well, let us move it over to the Famous Four. All right. The Famous Four. Again, these are the questions we ask everyone. And I know, Paul, you listen to the podcast, so you know what's coming. Number 1, what is your favorite real estate book?
I've been trying for days to come up with an original answer, but I must say that Mr. McElroy's ABC's Real Estate Investing. I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's a good one.
Don't be sorry.
That hasn't been said too often. I mean,
and you know what? He was a good guest on the show. So yeah, I'm not displeased by that. All right. What Yeah. What about your favorite business book?
I really like, I've got a bunch of favorites, but I like Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow Rich.
Okay. It's a good book.
Good. Yeah.
Good choice.
Good choice. All right. I'll take your question that you usually ask, Josh.
Oh, I'll ask my question. Fine. I mean, I already know his hobbies. The guy's a wakeboarder, kiteboarder. I mean, he has no respect for windsurfing, the true art on the water. But what do you do? What do you do for fun?
Oh, I try to. Yeah, I like being in the water. We have a lot of fishing, kiteboarding, play a little golf. Try to
in
be
the
outside
water?
a lot. Water golf. It's a new sport. It's pretty sweet.
Sorry, I couldn't help it. All right, cool. All right, and final question from me is, what do you believe sets apart successful real estate investors from those who fail?
I would just say perseverance. I mean, you gotta, there's ups and downs like anything, and you gotta push through it. It's not easy. Sometimes it feels easy, sometimes it feels really hard, but I think perseverance is just the big thing. You just got to stick with it.
Good stuff. All right, Paul. Well, listen, we definitely appreciate all of your time and your energy here and putting up with me. So before we let you go, where can people find out more about you?
I'm on BiggerPockets quite a bit. Or you can find me on my website, which is kingdomeg.com. That's E as in Edward, G as in golf.
So the site stands for Kingdom Edward Golf.
Kingdom.
What is the site about?
Kingdom Equity Group is one of my companies. So.
Okay,
gotcha.
Not water golf. Darn it.
Not water golf. Just straight golf.
Right on. All right, Paul. Well, listen, man. Thanks a lot, man. We definitely appreciate it. It's great having you on the show, and we'll see you back around on the forums and, of course, on the show notes at biggerpockets.com/show59.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
All right, everybody. That was Paul Tschetter. You can check him out on our show notes at biggerpockets.com/show59. Make sure to hit him up with any questions you've got. Hopefully you guys are enjoying these conversations that we're bringing to you from the BiggerPockets podcast. Our goal here is to, get as much information as we can from our cohorts on the show and to just really chat about things of interest to us and hopefully to you as well. So we do appreciate you listening. As always, definitely check us out at biggerpockets.com. If you're not already interacting, engaging, participating, I encourage you to do so. And beyond that, try something new today. So if you're on BiggerPockets all the time and you're posting in the forums but never have on the blog, never left a comment for the author of an article who spends a lot of time bringing you really great content, leave them a piece of feedback, or vice versa. If you're always on the blog, jump on the forums and interact, help somebody out, do something different on the site today and see what you can do and see who you'll meet. Otherwise, that's pretty much what we got for you. I'm Josh Dorkin, signing off.
You're listening to BiggerPockets Radio, simplifying real estate for investors large and small. If you're here looking to learn about real estate investing without all the hype, you're in the right place. Be sure to join the millions of others who have benefited from BiggerPockets.com, your home for real estate investing online.